I'm Nick Terzo, and you are listening to The Radical. This episode marks our 52nd, otherwise known as our first anniversary. My gratitude is enormous to anyone who's taken the time to listen and for the notes of encouragement when you have liked a particular show. I hope that you maybe gained an insight or learned something you might not have already known. What I learned is podcasting is way harder than it looks, and my confidence and many delusions in my own abilities are often than not very humbled. As I enter year 2, I will try to do my very best to improve my performance, and of course, your feedback is always appreciated. Again, many thanks to each of you for returning every week to hear another episode. This helps in getting me through the toiling and obscurity aspect of starting something new in a saturated medium. Okay, let's get back to it. My guest this week is a 3-time Tony nominee, known for his incredible performances in musicals such as Hamilton, Carousel, Scottsboro Boys, and In the Heights. Upcoming, he will be seen in Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut film, Tick, Tick, Boom, and will be releasing his first full-length record titled To Grow in September. The talented singer and actor, Joshua Henry, joins me to discuss working with producer Nephew on his new record, the rigors of 8 performances on Broadway each week, and playing Aaron Burr in Hamilton. Coming up, my conversation with Joshua Henry. Welcome, Joshua. I'm really thrilled to have you on the show this week.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Yeah, I know you're juggling a lot. I'm curious what your last year had been like with Broadway kind of being down. But we're here to talk about, you have a new 4-song EP called Guarantee. That's really amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what... was it the downtime of Broadway? What led you to kind of want to go down this path?
I've always wanted to go down this path way before Broadway. But Broadway came along and I love Broadway. I fell in love with it. But this last year, the downtime did help me to focus on music, along with my wife, who was like, babe, like, this has been your passion for a very long time. If you're not going to focus on it now, if you're not going to pour everything into it now, then when are you going to? And so I did that. So in one way, I'm really grateful for last year. It was a really emotional time, but everything was sort of to the surface for me emotionally, and I was able to just spill it onto the tracks. I had my guitar, my MIDI keyboard, and I was collaborating with an incredible producer whose name is Nephew.
Nephew.
Oh, yeah. In LA, he just worked with everyone from Bieber to Doja Cat, Dr. Dre, everyone. So, yeah, it was an incredible time to be able to focus on that EP and also write songs for my upcoming album.
That's where I was trying to get to. Like, what's coming? Yeah. This is got to be a setup for something else. So.
It's a setup. we're ramping up to this, To Grow, which comes out September 10th. That's the name of the album.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this. This is good news. I thought this was maybe way off. So,
breaking.
Awesome. Breaking news. I love it. So, the song Hold Me is so good. Your voice is just slays me. So
thank you.
How did you put the material together? Because I know there's like an OJ's cover on here. What was the thinking around that?
Hold Me, because there's 4 songs in the EP. Hold Me was the first song that I released. And I had started a version of that like 3 years ago. And it wasn't until last year where it just felt right. The song Stand Up is an OJ's cover. I hadn't planned on doing any covers for, my first EP, but that song, especially last year, it really resonated with me. To just, if there's a heart out there, stand up. It just made me want to get involved more in my, understand more about politics, understanding what I can do, not just in politics, but in my community of artists. How can I be most useful? So that song really resonated with me. But I wanted to do some songs that really came from me, and the depths of me. Hold Me being the first song. I wanted to talk about how vulnerable it is to be an artist where you want to shoot for the stars, but you also need to be held down in an amazing way by the people that are close to you. And so that juxtaposition is a complicated one that we artists go through, especially if you have a strong vision of where you want to go. But I'm glad you dig it. That's
no, it's great. I mean, will those songs end up on the final record too, or are you keeping that separate? That's a separate piece.
Yeah. We're gonna keep them in there. Yeah.
Good. And it's like, I know you just had twin boys. Did you have another child too? You have 3 kids?
Yes, we got 3. Samson is 3 years old, and the boys are now 3.5 months old.
Yeah. So did that, in any of that, especially with the newborn, any of that kind of affect anything you were writing, or did that take you down a different path?
For sure. I mean, because Samson was the twins weren't here when I was writing the EP and album, but definitely for sure. There's a track that's not on the EP, but will be on the album, called "Take My Breath Away," that is all about Samson, because I spent so much time with him last year, being away from all performance, and my wife was at work. She's a nurse, so she was going through all that drama in COVID. But
oh wow,
it was me and him, and I was just thinking about how his smile and how his laugh just lights me up, and how it takes my breath away. So definitely, there's a track about him. There's a track also about my mom and my wife Catherine, called "Awe of Her," and just all the incredible things that women do, and incredible women do in my life to inspire me, and just that I'm like, how does that happen? How are you doing that? So yeah, family is definitely a big influence on this the EP and album.
Oh, that's awesome. And did nephew, did he do the whole record with you, or did you use different producers?
All nephew. I came to him with a pretty good structure for what I wanted to do, but he just he challenged me to be use my entire voice. You'll hear stuff where I'm belting my face off, and then in a song like "Hold Me," I'm way up, using my D'Angelo influence and Prince, love. So he was like, "Yo, don't keep any of that out, Josh. That's you. Your little soulful, funky pop lane, but use the whole instrument." So that was really encouraging.
Oh, that's awesome. And did you do that like all remotely?
All remotely, literally, it was FaceTimes and Zooms. He's in LA and I'm here. Sometimes it'd be like 1 a.m. and he's like, "All right, Josh, I got an idea." And I'm like, "Now I just went to sleep, but all right, let's hear it." So, he's in LA, just getting into his groove at like 10 p.m. So, but it was amazing. It happened in about 3 months, Nick, fast and furious, which, this is something that I want to do for years. And I could tell it's been at the tip of my spirit, because when it came down to doing it, it was like a downhill water slide, just like whoosh, and the music just came out really quick.
That's fantastic. Are you self-releasing? Do you have a label situation or a distribution situation?
I have a label, incredible label, BMG, and they've been amazing throughout this process, and understanding what my voice is, and also encouraging me to do your own thing. My first meeting with them, they were like, "We just love great music, Josh, and we love you as an artist." And this is before I had released any music. They knew me from some of the stuff I was doing on my Instagram, just little clips, little, reharms and things like that. So yeah, BMG's been amazing.
That's awesome. Well, I want to get a little bit into your story, because I think it's fascinating, and it's like a lot of people's stories. There's no straight line, right? It goes sideways, zigzags, does all of that. So you came up in you were raised in Florida, yes?
Yes. Yeah, Miami, Florida. Went to the University of Miami, studied music theater there. And then promptly after, in 2006, came straight up to New York and was like, "Let's get it."
Nice. Was there a plan, or was it like, no, this is where it is, and I'm just going head first?
Plans? Nick, you know we don't do plans. At 21, I wasn't 22 maybe when I came up. My plan was this, to grow into the best artist I can be. And I really did have that in mind. I just, I remember coming up to New York with like, in a Penske moving truck from Florida with like $1,500 in my account, and I was paying like 500. I was planning on paying like $500 per month in rent. So I didn't really do the math of like, yo, if you don't make this happen in like 3 months. Fortunately, I had a gig for like 5 weeks that was going to help, but like I was just going for it, and I think it's the best thing, for me to just like get out there. Maybe it was a little bit of, naivete, but I knew that I was talented, and I knew that I was focused, and I knew that I would give it absolutely everything that I had. And yeah, I set out to be the best musician and the best vocalist that I could be. And that took me into Broadway, and, it's spun into other things, writing, being a recording artist, TV and film. So yeah.
Nice. Did you, how long did it take you to get your first real like Broadway show then? And was it what I think it is? Was it really in the Heights?
It was, yeah, it was in the Heights. You see this poster right here. It's like a key
there it
in
is.
The Heights. Yeah. So, let's see, I got to New York in 2006 in the fall. And 2008, I believe, is when we opened on Broadway. So, but I had done the off-Broadway show, which was really cool. So I got to meet and kick it with Lin-Manuel Miranda before he had his star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, before Hamilton and all the incredible things. But it was great because I got to be around an incredible writer, one of the greatest writers, as he was developing these new pieces in the Heights and Hamilton. When he just started writing that, we were all there. So I got to learn and witness firsthand what it means to tell an incredible story, have characters, and really put yourself, as Lin did, in the story. So that was invaluable. Now I take that as a recording artist too.
Mm. And how long did you do? Like, were you part? Like, as I assume when you start, it's a kind of more of an ensemble kind of piece, right? When you first get your start, how long were you involved then within the Heights?
So I did that from 2007. We were off Broadway, I believe, and I stayed in the ensemble all the way till about when we opened in 2008 till 2009. And it, like you said, it wasn't a straight line. Like, I had an opportunity to go and jump out and do a principal role in this musical called Godspell, which was going to Broadway. And so I put in my 4 weeks notice, and in the Heights, in the ensemble, I was like, yeah, okay, now it's my time. And this was around 2008, or whenever the crash was. And at that time, the marquee was up, and I just left my ensemble role, and the show, all the investors fell out. The producers were like, yeah, we're not doing this after all. So just won the Tony, just won the Grammy at Radio City Hall. And then I left to take a jump, right? Like we do as artists. And it didn't work out as planned, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, Nick, because I realized quickly in my journey as an artist that, one, the value of taking risks and understanding it doesn't always work out. So I saw the highs and the lows pretty early on, and I had to think about what really sustains me. And I think that's one of the most important questions.
So I'm curious. So when something like that happens, usually you kind of meet people that come back into your life down the path a little bit. Did anything from Godspell ever come back into your career down the road or not? Any of the people?
Absolutely. Robin DeJesus was, who played Sonny in the Broadway version of In the Heights, did Godspell with me, which was the first gig that I got moving to New York. And now, this past year, he also is co-starring with me in Tick, Tick, Boom, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So you're talking about something that happened in 2006, fast forward all the way to 2020, and so it's wow, it's big full circle moment.
That's awesome. And we will talk about Tick, Tick, Boom. I'm a fan of Jonathan Larson's, so we will talk about that a little bit. So So Godspell kind of falls out during the financial crisis. What happened then? Like, where did you end up? What was next?
So, again, thank God, it was so grateful to be able to get back into In the Heights, not in an ensemble role, but as a swing, which, if you don't know what a swing is, that's the person that is, pretty much understudies lots of ensemble roles. So I had 4 roles that I was understudying, and I also was in charge of being ready to go on for Benny in case Chris Jackson, who I understudied, who's a general in Hamilton, he's gone on to do incredible things, was to call out of the show. So I got in as a swing, and I did that for a while.
Can you work almost every night when you're kind of understudying for that many people, like, 4 or 5 different roles? I mean, do you find that you're working most nights, or is that not the case still?
No, some nights, sometimes 5 days might go by, or even a week goes by when everyone's just healthy, no one's calling out or injured, and those are that's hard because you're there and you have to still memorize the tracks. You still have to keep the tracks fresh in your mind. And that was really valuable to me because going on to then do other principal roles, and it helped me to just understand stage generalship. You have to know what's going on at all times. But that's a hard role. Shout out to the swings out there.
Yeah, it's curious. And let me see if I can get this straight. I think you've had a couple of different breakout roles, really. So, would you say, since we're on kind of the Lin-Manuel path right now, would you say that Hamilton kind of was that for you? You played Aaron Burr, and that was in the touring company?
Yeah, the first national tour, I opened that as Aaron Burr, and also the Chicago company, I opened that company. I would say that's probably been my biggest role. My breakout role was definitely on Broadway. My first principal role, which was Haywood Patterson in the Scottsboro Boys by John Kander and Susan Stroman, David Thompson. And so that was in 2011. But yeah, I would say Hamilton was talk about like being like a rock star, nothing like taking that to San Francisco and LA, and that was
you got incredible reviews from that. You're playing that role. Aaron Burr, look, people think he's kind of the bad guy, right? In some ways Hamilton's the bad guy, in my view of history, but it's a curious. So how did you do that? Like, how did you get your head around that role?
You're right. Yeah, Hamilton is the bad guy. Everyone sees Burr as the bad guy. I just, you can't view the villain as the villain, and I try to, put as much charm and myself in Aaron Burr. And I don't see, I've made mistakes in my life. I don't see myself as a bad guy. I don't think anybody truly does. But, it was about their friendship, and how much can you lean into their friendship and their relationship? Because they were actually close, even though they were rivals. And, so I leaned into that. And one of the things that Tommy Kail, the director, told me when I was doing that was everything is fine until it's not, so don't telegraph you shooting him. You know what I mean? So I try to delay that as much as possible. And I think that really did me well doing that role. It's a role I did for a year and a half between the touring company and Chicago. And I never got sick of it once, Nick. It's just so, it's the piece of art that keeps on giving as a performer. You have to rise to the occasion every night. And yeah, a year and a half of just playing Aaron Burr was amazing.
And when you do that, in a musical sense, and it is different every night somewhat, right? Will an orchestra play differently that night? What affects your performance in a musical like that?
Yeah, you might have a fill-in person in the orchestra, dum, da, 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 dum, dum, dum. Might be a little bit different from night to night. For me, though, I make sure I want my performance to be different every night. So I write with a dry erase board in my dressing room one word that signifies the performance that I want the performance to be. And it can be vocally, it can do with movement, it can be like ice or fire or control. Like if I just want to think about being controlled vocally tonight, or it can be anything. But when you're doing, 500 performances, you have to keep it fresh. You have to challenge yourself to do it differently and not just show up, you know. Otherwise, when that train starts taking off, like it goes fast and you're just behind it. And I promised myself when I got out of school, I would never be one of those actors that just rides the material. I want to bring my best self to the material.
Right. And did you, as a principal, when you have a principal role like that and you have to sing, was it seven days a week, 8 days when you do the matinees? How do you keep it together, like health-wise? What's your trick?
A lot of this.
Yeah.
A lot of water, like a gallon a day. And I, two things. Like I'll start physically. A lot of water, a lot of gym, massages every week. I don't really talk that much outside of the show. I'm very aware of my voice. And getting to the show early to prep, to warm up and cool down vocally. I would even ice my voice. Like I would chew, ice cubes after. So that's one thing. But I think the other half and the more important half was like, for me, the spiritual preparation, because when your body is under such intense pressure, I have to believe, or I choose to believe in something, that I'm connected to a limitless creative source. And that is there for me, even when my body gives out. Really having some sense of a spiritual connection to sustain you through these hard physical moments that 8 shows a week requires. So it's those things, spiritual connection and that physical preparation.
Does that include like meditation and stuff? I mean, do you have to kind of get down into yourself like fully?
I mean, yeah. I could talk to you for this about an hour, but yeah, even off stage, between scenes, of course I'd have fun sometimes, just talking to my cast members, but there were certain moments in the show where off stage I would just sit on the stairs and just meditate for 30 seconds, or because Amber didn't have that much time off stage, 15 seconds, or for 2 minutes between numbers. You just need to find whatever piece that you can and find your breath outside of the noise to be able to deliver with focus and clarity and truth. So meditation for sure.
Very curious. So I want to talk to you a little bit. You were in Carousel as a principal, right? You played Billy Bigelow. And that was a revival, obviously, a Rodgers and Hammerstein play. And you got nominated, right? You got a Tony nomination for that role. But I got to ask you, because this stuff just crushes me, and I don't know how you guys deal with it. The show was only open for like a month. Is that what happened? And it closed? Was it a month or was it a little bit longer?
It was a little bit longer. Scottsboro Boys was open for about a month. And then, closed pretty quickly. So I'll talk about Scottsboro for a second and then Carousel. Yeah. Scottsboro, it's funny. It got nominated for like 11 Tony Award nominations. So it was very well respected artistically, but audiences weren't coming to see it for whatever reason. And that is really painful, especially that being my first principal role. You're like, oh, wow, and then boom, boom. And it's hard. There's no getting around it. That show has then gone on to be successful regionally and then in London. So that can be difficult. Carousel opened, and we were open for about, I think, 8 months, which is these days, that's a good run.
That's a run.
That's an incredible run. For me, during that run, Samson was born. So singing a song like the big soliloquy, which is all about, thinking about what your child is going to be, what they, are they going to look like you? Are they going to move like you? And I was literally thinking those thoughts when I was doing that run of Carousel. So that lasted for about 8 months, but being able to sing alongside Renee Fleming, Jesse Mueller, Lindsay Mendez, just these incredible vocalists, was a masterclass in itself. I was the lead of that show, but I learned so much. When I wasn't on stage, I was in Renee Fleming's room, who's like, if you don't know, opera superstar forever. And I'm like, okay, so how, let's talk about this passaggio placement on this vowel here. Like, how do you do that? How do you do this? So that's just me, forever a student. And in Carousel, I got to learn a lot.
Wow. So that authenticity of what you were going through kind of in your life at the time with your son being born. And then it's funny how that you get a Tony nomination. You know what I mean? Oh, look, this is really authentic. Was that your first, or you had stuff from In the Heights as an ensemble, or was that your first as your own principal?
Thankfully, that was my third. So Scottsboro Boys was one. Violet was two.
What is Violet? I don't know that one.
Violet's an incredible musical by Brian Crowley and Janine Tesori. Janine Tesori wrote Fun Home and Shrek, among many others. And I did that in 2014 alongside Sutton Foster, who is just an amazing, wonderful woman, talent and heart. And that was cool because I did Violet in college at the University of Miami. And that was my first principal role in college. And then in 2014, 7-8 years later, I got to do it actually on Broadway, record an album, and now Let It Sing, which is sort of a big song from Violet, lives on in a recording. So I get asked to sing that a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. And with Carousel, I mean, Scott Rudin was a producer on that, right? Who's had a little bit of a rough year. And I just have to, I am somewhat in a social circle, so I'm not going to, I don't want to much get into that. So, I mean, but is he involved much with like your role being, you being cast in that?
Yes. He asked me to come in. We were doing Shuffle Along on Broadway at the time, which he was producing as well. And during that run, he asked me, hey, what do you think about this idea? And it's the biggest role in musical theater. And I was like, yeah, I trained classically a little bit in college along with my musical theater training. So I was excited to rise to that challenge. And so that was an amazing time for me. A lot of the things, I'll say briefly that have surfaced, horrible, absolutely horrible. As it goes, sometimes when you're in someone's great graces, in a position of power, sometimes you don't see all of the things, the horrible things that have been going on. So, I think I'm glad to hear what has happened, that it's surfaced, and I'm glad that he's had to, take a step back and in some ways been removed from a lot of what's been going on. So,
Yeah, I always like to say it's kind of a little bit, especially with having known Scott, and he has super intelligence. It's kind of the curse of a perfectionist. And he's got that curse. And unfortunately, it gets, it gets outwardly put the wrong way. I get it. But I do think it's a little bit of curse of perfection that he has because he's so uber intelligent to begin with. But
intelligent, in painfully artistically brilliant. And it's unfortunate that, these other things had been happening alongside that.
Yeah. So let's talk now. Since you're so multifaceted, now we can talk about film. So let's talk about Tick, Tick, Boom, which is kind of Lin-Manuel's first kind of directing role for him. Jonathan Larson wrote this piece before Rent. Do I have that right? Was this prior to Rent?
Yes.
Anyway, tell me about what does this mean to you? Like what role you have in the film? Tell me a little bit about it.
So I had, first of all, we filmed it last fall for the most part. So being able to have an outlet, was incredible, especially because this story, Tick, Tick, Boom, is about an artist finding their place, finding their voice in a city that's so challenging. In New York City, literally these streets that I live on, and so finding their place artistically and in their relationships. So that to be a part of this story is incredible. I played Roger Bart, who is one of his really good friends, who performed in his presentations at New York Theater Workshop when he was giving this industry presentation to try to entice people to get it to off Broadway or to Broadway. So I get to sing along with some incredible songs that a lot of folks know from Tick Tick Boom. In this cast, like I said, Robin DeJesus, Vanessa Hudgens, Andrew Garfield, who are all brilliant. It was an honor to perform alongside them. And I gotta say, Lin-Manuel, his directorial debut, one of the things that was really cool was he would just he knows everyone so well. So when I came to do my little screen test, they were trying out me on the set, and he played songs from American Idiot, from Scottsboro Boys, just to like get the vibe right. And I wasn't expecting all that. So I came there and it just made me smile so much. It made me so comfortable and made me relax. And I'm like, wow, thank you, Lin. What such a personal touch. He's always had that. So yeah, I can't wait for folks to see Tick Tick Boom. It's especially if you live, if you have any connection to the arts, and it's a really great look into what an artist struggles with in their personal life and in their artistic life, and how they juggle those two things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know when it's going to be released? Is there a release date?
There's not a specific date right now, but I believe it's November. So definitely this fall. I think he's got to give In the Heights a little bit of breathing room to let that, know.
Well, it's a great story. It's a tragic thing with Jonathan Larson, so talented and gone too young. And I'll be curious to see his homage to him with this. So, and your performance. So,
thank you.
So on the musical front, back to being a recording artist, like who are some of your influences? Like who really influenced your world as a kind of a young man, even currently?
Well, let's start from current. Right now, I love artists who play their own, who write their stuff and who play instruments. Her, for me, is like huge. Anderson .Paak, massive. For me, those are like that's it, for right now. But yeah, I grew up listening to and being influenced by Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Prince, for sure. And definitely D'Angelo, who again was one of those people that played everything, did a lot of producing. Like their sounds really were some of the fabric that made me.
Do you think D'Angelo stands up? Because it's like he is super talented. I feel like he hasn't gotten his place in the pantheon, so to speak,
He's had flashes. He's had incredible albums that have been just huge monuments for the industry, right? Like literally changed the sound of the industry. He's almost credited for creating neo soul, or at least putting it on the map, like officially. I don't think he's gotten all the flowers that he's due.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got interest in like being the number one on the charts. You know what I mean? But even so, I think, he's definitely one of the best. Top five for me.
Nice. Do you think you will tour to support the record in September? Do you plan to go out and do some gigs?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I've got a few symphony gigs, on the calendar right now, where I can do a song or two. But yeah, I definitely want to tour with this album, with Grow. So the move right now is, or the question right now is like, am I going to go out by myself? Am I going to go, open for a big band? So that's sort of what we're figuring out right now. And either way, I'm very excited to get this music out. Yeah.
Do you have in your mind like what you think the ultimate way to present it is?
I mean, there's the ultimate way.
Yes, I mean the ultimate way.
The ultimate way. All right. Well, let's set up a tour that goes for 5 weeks, ending at the small room in Madison Square Garden that has like 5,000 seats. Like,
yep.
Then that's like the end of it. That would, of course,
beautiful.
That's the dream.
So you'll probably get there. I can't wait to hear it. So, currently the EP's out. Guarantee everyone should listen to it. Joshua's performances they'll blow your mind, man. His voice is really incredible. So, and I look forward to the new record. And you don't have any Broadway stuff coming up that you can or cannot tell me about, do you?
Not that I can talk about now. For now, we'll focus on the music. But if it comes up, maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, we'll do part 2. So awesome. Well, thank you for your time. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Great to talk to you.
Stay healthy.
You too.
Yes, sir. Thank you for listening. This show originates from the podcast capital, Austin, Texas. My producer is Sean O'Neill. Visit theradicalpod.com for updates and even some merchandise. Also, please subscribe at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I also ask that you please share episodes with your friends so we can continue to grow our community. See you all again next Friday.